All right, what's up, guys? So, time for my update regarding this Lexus. I've done a little bit more research on the car and on the wiring for some of the other systems that I was going to be trying to integrate into the car, and it looks like I do not have to use the instrument cluster for the immobilizer. I thought it was like my Audi, where the instrument cluster is coded to the ECU and the transponder and all that stuff. According to the documentation that I have, and I was incorrect, this engine and wiring harness is not out of a GS400, it is out of an LS400. Still a 1998, but it's out of an LS400. So I found that out. I was quoting the wrong diagrams. But anyway, it's for an LS400. Looking at the ABS traction control module, the wiring is exactly the same as the wiring in the IS300. So I'm just going to change the module. All the pinouts are exactly the same locations. As far as the transponder and the key and all that stuff, I don't need the instrument cluster out of the GS400. Now the TAC may read incorrectly, which I'm pretty certain it's going to, because it was reading for a 6-cylinder versus a 8-cylinder. So I may have to do a resistor or something to get the TAC reading correctly. But I believe I'm going to be able to use the original IS300 instrument cluster. I've already swapped out the transponder and the ignition switch ring that goes around it for the transponder. And yeah, that should be all I need is the transponder amplifier, the ring, and then the ECU that's coded to it, and then the RFID chip that's in the key, and I've got that, or well, Terry's got that. So I've already removed the instrument cluster out of here. I'm getting ready to remove the center console, and I'm going to start looking at tearing apart getting the old shifter, the old automatic shifter out of here, and pulling the console and everything out. So I'm going to flip the camera around and show you what I've done. So far, what I've done is I've removed the front kick panel, and I replaced the transponder key. So I have not pulled the old one out of here, but the ring that was around the ignition switch is a different size. So this is the ring that was original to the LS wiring, and it's a smaller diameter opening. So all I did was change the ring. I still have the ring in case the immobilizer doesn't want to work. I'll switch the ring back out and try it again. But the ring shouldn't be have any effect. All it does is picks up the signal and sends that signal to this box. So as long as I have the box that's coded to match the ECU and the chip that's coded to match this box and the ECU, I should be good. The ring shouldn't make a difference. But if it does, I have the correct coded ring. So I'm doing that just so that I can keep it looking like the original ring, because I'm going to take the RFID chip out of the key for the LS, or just the top of the key for the LS400, and I'm going to put it in the key for the IS300. I'm going to switch the chips so that it's a regular factory Lexus key and it works like it's supposed to. But what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to remove the center console and the automatic shifter and start looking at how I'm going to modify that. And then after I get done with that, what I'm going to do is I'm going, and I had my son bringing a wiring harness out here. I don't know where he went, but I found the wiring harness that I needed for all these wires that I have not terminated out of the ECU. Did not realize that I had it down in a bucket downstairs, but it's all the wiring for the alternator, the oil pressure switch, and all that. So I just got to tap it into these wires. So luckily I have everything that I need. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the engine out of here and button up the wiring harness, get everything cleaned up and everything. And while the engine's out, I'm going to try and figure out how I'm going to move the ABS module. And I'm also going to look at what kind of interference I'm going to be dealing with for the exhaust manifold, because I know this side exhaust manifold will interfere with the steering shaft. So I am going to look into that. But I believe I'm going to pull the motor back out, try and button up the wiring harness, and I'm also going to get some measurements for the AR5, and because I can't find an adapter plate for the AR5 to the 1UZ bell housing right now. Everywhere that I found is out of stock, And since I'm a machine tool serviceman by trade, I can get one of the shops that I go to mill out an adapter plate as long as I give them the CAD drawing or I give them the program. So, and the material, obviously, and pay them for their time. But I should be able to get one made. So I'm gonna, more than likely, if I can't find one on the internet, I'm gonna wind up doing a drawing, either do a CAD drawing or do a program for one of the machines that I work on, and have them mill it out of a piece of aluminum, and try and get the transmission bolted up to this engine so I can start fitting the transmission tunnel and all that stuff, because I got to make sure I'm not going to interfere with the bottom of the transmission tunnel, and I got to make sure it looks like radiator and everything's going to fit correctly. So I am kind of curious whether I should go with a thicker core radiator, but for right now, when I first put it together, I'm going to run this radiator and see what happens. If I notice any cooling issues or overheating issues, I'll go to a bigger radiator. But yeah, so that's what I'm going to start with. Hope y'all enjoy. All right, guys, so in order to remove this center console, you got a screw right here with a cap over it. You got one on the other side with a cap over it. You got 2 screws down inside of here. Gotta get all this crap out of here, but shit. But there's one screw right there. The other one's underneath all that crap. And then there's a screw up here and a screw up here. You got to pull this center panel out. All right, so you just stick something in here, pry up on this chrome ring, and then the whole thing just pops up. Disconnect your electrical connectors and slide it off. This same thing, just it pries up. I had to put the brake down to get it to slide over the brake, but it just clips in. You got a clip there, and then you got 2 slide pieces on each side, and then it just wraps over top the e-brake. So that gives you that. Then you've got your 2 bolts in here. You got 1 bolt there, 1 bolt here, and I still got to take 2 bolts out back here. So I'll take all those out and then I'll pick back up. All right, guys, so after you get those clips down here in the corners are an absolute bitch to get to pop out. But if you figure them out, what I had to do was pull out on the panel, stick my finger up behind the panel and push the clip over while I put a screwdriver on the front side and pried it in, and then I could pop it out. It was not fun. I don't think I can stress that enough. That was a pain in the ass, both of those 2 front clips. But other than that, everything else is pretty easy. Like I say, take the bolts out, thing pops right up. You got another electrical connector for the light inside of the pocket in the back. And then you've already disconnected these connectors for the cigarette lighter and the whatnot. So now I'm going to pull the automatic transmission shifter out of here, and yeah, we'll go from there. All right, once you get everything removed and you want to take the shifter out, you got to disconnect. There's 4 10mm bolts, 1 in each corner of the shifter. You need to pull this plate up so that you can push the power and snow button out of here so that you can disconnect the wiring for it. Then you need to disconnect this connector, the one for the snow power mode, and then you got to pull the clips out of right here and right here, and that's this wiring right here, and that runs to your e-brake, and it runs your center console or your center armrest light and all that. So now that that's out, you can pull the whole shifter assembly out. There's the whole shifter assembly. Now we have our hole for our shifter. Now I should be able to look at possibly getting a shifter mount or a shifter bezel mount out of a manual, or I may have to make a bracket or something so that I can put a shifter boot on it and all that. But I'm going to try and get the shifter to sit exactly in this location. So I may have to readjust where the transmission's going to sit and all that. I'm not 100% certain yet, but I'll cross that bridge when I get there. But that's how you get to the where you've exposed where the hole for the manual transmission is, and that's only if you're doing the auto to manual swap like we're doing. All right, guys, so I just threw the console back together just real quick so that I can see how it was going to look. So I might just need to get a IS300 boot that mounts to the bottom of this. I'm not certain how it all mounts. I'll have to look and research that I'm way more familiar with the Audis, but it should work out really good. That's going to be, if I can get the shifter to sit right there, that's going to be perfect placement. I'll be able to use the original 5-speed shifter boot for an IS 300 and go from there. So I think what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and pull the kick panel down here and get to the, actually I don't think I have to pull the kick panel. I think it's right there. So I need to replace the ABS traction control module. So I'm going to go ahead and swap that out since the wiring's the same. And then the next thing I'll do is start pulling the motor so I can finish the wiring on the motor. All right, so I think what I'm going to work on more than anything, I mean, I am going to clean up the wiring harness when I pull the motor out of here, but I think what I'm going to work on the most is trying to get these ABS lines away from the motor. You can see back here, the top line is actually hitting the top of the head. And there's really very minimal clearance in the back there. So I'm going to try and figure out how to redo these lines a little bit, give me some more clearance, and figure out where I'm going to move this module or how I'm going to move it. Because ideally, all I want to do is just shift it over. I really don't want to turn it because I don't know if it's going to mess with the systems or servos that are in there. Because some of these are designed to sit a specific way. I've had other ones where I've been able to turn them, but I know some of them are orientation specific and it'll mess with them. So because I don't know enough about this thing, I don't know that I want to rotate it. I mean, if I have to, I have to. I'll do what I have to do. But ideally, what I'd like to do is straighten these lines out and kind of try and be able to tuck it up further up over here into the corner. And then, because we're not planning on putting an air box over here, we're just going to do a short ram intake on it. We'll probably have an air filter sitting right here, just a regular cone air filter. I'm not going to do the whole original air box and all that shit. I might, but right now that's not in the works. So we'll see how it goes. All right, guys, so I was going to include pulling the motor back out and working on some of the wiring harness, but I've had some things happen in my life that's kind of messing with me, so I'm just going to end the video here. I'm still going to keep working on the car. Nobody's going to want to watch a video where I'm depressed, so I'm just going to end it here. Next video will be the engine out and what I do to modify the ABS. But I hope y'all enjoyed this video, and thanks for sticking around and watching. I really appreciate everybody that's subscribing and commenting and interacting with the videos. Really appreciate it, and I'll see y'all soon enough.